plastic is everywhere. Your clothes, your phone, your bed, your car, your shoes, your fridge, even in your body. It's literally everywhere. But as people around the world continue to fight to reduce plastic waste, I realized something. Even though I am a polymer chemist and I know how to make plastic in a lab, I never knew how plastic is actually made in the real world. I mean, where does this stuff actually come from and why is there so much of it? Well, it turns out we've gotten really good at turning dinosaurs into these. What it do? I'm Lumi and welcome to the Benchtop, where we explore our plastic planet. Now, plastics can be separated into two categories, synthetic and bio-based. In this episode, we are focusing on the synthetic category, but that doesn't mean bio-based is better. I'll clear it up in another episode, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one. Believe it or not, most synthetic plastics come from crude oil. Yeah, we actually make this out of this. Well, not exactly this, more like that. Crude oil is something you've probably heard of in the news or debated about online. But what is crude oil? Well, outside of being something a particular country seems to love, crude oil is a complex mixture of chemicals called hydrocarbons, which are just chemicals made out of hydrogen and carbon. These hydrocarbons are found in gas pockets or underground pools beneath the Earth's surface. Despite the common misconception of this oil coming from the remains of dinosaurs, crude oil actually comes from the plants and algae from millions of years ago. Over the history of the Earth, these were buried under layers of sand and rock, and that heat and pressure basically turned all that salad into oil. So that water bottle isn't actually made out of old T-Rexes, it's more like old lettuce. Once crude oil is captured, it's taken to an oil refinery and undergoes a process called fractional distillation. During this process, crude oil is put in a furnace and heated. This helps to boil off different chemicals that are part of the complex oil mixture. Since each component of the mixture has a different boiling point, this process helps to separate the different compounds into what are called fractions. Now, the biggest fraction of crude oil is used to make things like gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. But the fractions we are most concerned about are liquefied petroleum gas and naphtha. Now, these aren't pure substances, but are still mixtures of hydrocarbons. So there is more work to do before we get to the finished plastic. The next step after distillation is called cracking. Cracking is another heating process, but this time, instead of separating the chemicals, we are trying to break or crack them. Here's what I mean. On the benchtop, I have a bunch of different random hydrocarbons. Remember, these are chemicals made out of hydrogen and carbon, which I have sacrificed my finger to show you. So please drop a like on this episode since that's the fastest way to heal my finger. When we take these long hydrocarbons and heat them up, the bonds holding them together crack, forming smaller chemicals like ethylene, propylene, butadiene, and so on. Each of these can now be separated from each other and are now ready to go to the fourth step of the process, polymerization. Once separated, each of these chemicals can be used as monomers to make polymers. Monomers are small molecules that can be used to make much bigger molecules through different types of chemical reactions. This takes small molecules like ethylene and turns it into a much bigger molecule like polyethylene. This same process can be done for many other compounds from the cracking process to make polypropylene or polybutadiene. Once converted into a polymer, these materials take on new properties to make things like polyethylene milk containers or polypropylene, which is what makes the milk crate challenge possible. Ooh, maybe strong at holding milk, not so strong at holding a person. But actually, once polymerized, plastics still need to undergo another step before you can use them to embarrass yourself on TikTok. It's called compounding. Compounding is where our new polymers can be mixed with additives to give them the right properties. These additives can help with making the material more flexible, or can add color, or can make them more resistant to staining. Once compounded, the synthetic plastic is then turned into pellets and used to make bags, cables, toys, bottles, and all sorts of other things. And to me, that's fascinating. Taking old plants from the depths of the Earth's crust and turning it into one of these. That's one of the most interesting achievements of chemistry. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that synthetic plastics don't have their issues, which we covered in a previous episode right up there. But understanding how it's made in the first place helps you understand how we make so much of it. A large amount of plastic production is directly tied into the global energy and oil supply chain, which plays a large part in why plastic products are so cheap. This makes it quite difficult to get rid of since most alternatives are simply just too expensive when compared to synthetic plastics. So though getting rid of plastics altogether is unlikely, there are a number of approaches that seek to help the problem. For instance, what if we could turn plastic back into the oil it came from? That is exactly what many plastic companies are looking to do in the near future, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that future episode. I'm Lumi, thanks for coming to the Benchtop, and remember, keep thinking.